Great, thank you. Okay, so the title of our research here is Lurking Variables Adding Complexity to the Assessment and Learning of Mathematics in Adult Learners. I will try to speak a bit fast so I could meet the 12-15 minute timeline. So the focus here is on the adult learner. This is the individual who's returning back to school after being away for some time. And this time could be as little as 1 year, or it could be as much as 10 years. So the profile of this adult learner is the absence of formal education. Usually there are people with diverse background and experiences. They've worked in the industry. And they're coming back to school with the objective to advance in their career. So they need to obtain new certificates, new diplomas, and new knowledge in order to advance in their career. This adult learner population is people who are dealing with multiple responsibilities at work, at home, and many others. They do have prior knowledge, specifically of mathematics, because they've experienced and studied the topic. They are also very motivated because they are not the high school or secondary student when they were a teenager and they had to go to school. Now they're going on their own and they're trying to fulfill a certain objective, and they're very motivated. Also, some of these adult learners have experienced, there are some barriers to math learning, and that's what I'd like to talk about next in the next slide. So what are these barriers to learning math for an individual who's come back to college or university? Well, first of all, as I mentioned earlier, is the academic hiatus, the absence from schooling. Now, this is more problematic in the field of mathematics because, as we know, mathematics is a very organized, sequential subject, and it relies on understanding the concepts rather than just doing things. Another barrier is how they learned mathematics in the past. If they just memorize stuff and just follow the procedure without mastering the fundamental concepts, then that could be a big barrier. Another barrier is the prior negative math experiences that some adults could have had and math anxiety. So a study by Hunt and Maloney suggests that if someone has experienced negative aspects in their learning of math, it influences what they will learn in the future. So it's carried on for the future. Another barrier is restricted access to supplemental math resources. This was more of an issue in the past. But however, in colleges and universities, we have the tutoring centers or learning centers, as they're called, where students could go in and get help one-on-one. But of course, these centers work during normal operating hours. And adult students typically would study maybe just before midnight or even after midnight. And that's when they need the support. Stereotype threats. So a lot of adult learners, and there's a lot of research on this, have issues and barriers in the sense of going back to school due to their age, due to their cultural norms, what society will say about them. So all these are barriers to math learning. So what happens when an adult learner does come to the college or university level to pick up the necessary math prerequisites? Well, they are typically assessed with a placement test. Then they are put in a class-based or self-paced math class, and we provide to the adult learner a lot of tutoring and support through the Learning Center. However, these math placement tests are largely based on multiple choice questions, which may not accurately reflect the range of skills and understanding of the student. Also, the student is placed in the math class, and this math class could be as long as a 3-month math class, 4, 5, up to 6 months. However, in reality, what might be needed is the student to just review and strengthen certain areas of the subject and not do a whole developmental math class. And the other issue with the learning centers, as we mentioned earlier, is that they are restricted to the operating hours. So what can be done? Well, there are strategies in enhancing math learning outcomes for these adult learners. Personalized learning, community learning, blended learning, fostering a growth mindset, creating a supportive and inclusive environment for the adult learners, AI, generative AI and technology and math tools, and educating the teachers, the educators, to teach the adult learners who are coming back to class after being away for such a very long time. I will touch upon all these very briefly. So the first one is personalized learning. So instead of a student doing a whole math class, what would be better, and this works more easier in a self-paced environment, is for the students to address the areas where they lack knowledge and go very quickly in the areas they feel comfortable with. Um, Allow learners to progress at their own pace with predefined time limits. So they could go as slow as they want or as fast as they want, of course, within certain guidelines. Adult learners also learn better if the math topics are associated with anything related to their professions. So, for example, teaching students or potential students in the health sciences, application word problems would be in the area of health sciences. That would make more things relatable to them. So this is called contextualizing math problems. And also project-based learning. This can be applied to learning of mathematics, but more properly accomplished in other subjects. Community learning. This is mostly done in a self-paced environment where students, adult learners can share with each other their experiences and strengths through problems. Experiential learning. I'm experimenting on this myself with role playing as a tool for students in a business math class, where they actually act out as a predefined scenario. And this helps them learn more complex topics such as selling a promissory note in business rather than just solving equations. Group discussions can also help students either with the presence of the instructor or without the presence. And an instructor role as a facilitator who can guide discussions and encourage participation. In other words, less lecturing. Blended learning, the typical flipped classroom model where students pre-read in advance, then they come to class, and the focus would be on what the students are having difficulty with. Virtual study groups, discussion boards, asynchronous recorded lectures, all these are ways that blended learning can occur. And of course, online math tools, which will be discussed in more detail very soon. Fostering a growth mindset is very important for adult learners. Adult learners in their work environment see results immediately. They work, the time frame is usually a day, a week, a couple of weeks, and they see the results of their labor. However, with taking a course, sometimes that takes more time to see the benefits of their labor. So growth mindset is a term that's popularized by Carol Dweck in 2008 and refers to the belief that Intelligence and abilities can develop through effort, perseverance, and right strategies. So an adult learner can set up a plan of their studies. Um, they're encouraged to try different strategies in order to succeed. Timely feedback on their assignments and quizzes, positive reinforcement, and mentioning to the adult learner, excuse me, boosting their confidence by providing other success stories. Creating a supportive and inclusive environment is very important also, excuse me, because adult learners have more other responsibilities with their families, their work, offering counseling services and to address emotional and psychological barriers. This is also done with typical students. Acknowledging the diversity in the classroom and allowing the ability to share. So I'm just going through this slide relatively fast. Is something that can be focused for adult learners returning back to school. Generative AI technology and math tools. This could be very useful for adult learners who want to learn outside of the classroom at their own time. We have adaptive assessments. This is as learners do online math problems. If they are not solving the more easier problems, the program gives more of those problems. If they're having difficulty with certain problems, then automatically the AI tool creates more easier problems for them to do. There are many learning platforms. Some popular ones, at least in Canada, are Khan Academy, Socratic, Alex, but there are many more all around the world that could personalize problem sets and explanations. Interactive learning environments. There's a lot of visualization in these Gen AI tools, simulations, gamification, where a student, for example, could move a slider and they could see the slope of a line change dynamically. And real-time feedback. These exams and tests are marked instantly and student gets instantly feedback. So this could be very helpful for adult learners. What can institutions do? Well, colleges and universities can offer math education programs tailored to teach educators to teach adults, learners coming back to school. So there are professional development that can occur, and there's even degrees now offered in adult education. And this could be very useful and helpful for students who are coming back to school to gain knowledge needed for their career advancement. So overall, supporting an adult learner who is coming back to resume math studies requires a multimodal approach. It's not just a class and a lecture and a test. And on-demand resources, because as we saw, the adult learner toggles a lot of responsibilities in their work and family life. Second, institutions should recognize the unique needs of adult learners and adopt curricula to support their learning challenges. So when curriculum development occurs, there should always be some thought given into adults coming back to school. Adult learners with workforce experience gain the most from experiential math learning, because anything that an adult learns, that they try to associate it of how it makes sense from their experience in the workforce. And last, there are, of course, budget challenges that all colleges and institutions that face, and a lot of these things are usually put on the back burner and are not fully developed. So this is my presentation. Thank you very much. Actually, there was one more slide here. Recommendations for future research. What we can do is assess adult learners in math by first identifying the primary personal barriers to learning, to math learning, through self-reported survey data, because the barriers are not the same for every student. So we don't want to spend money, time, and effort doing something that, we'll think will work for all. Another recommendation of future work would be to conduct some statistical analysis. For example, a two-way ANOVA statistical analysis, and see if there's any differences in the factors that affect math learning. Also, the effectiveness of chatbots, 24/7, 24 hours, 7 days a week, generative math learning. These are math tutors, AI math tutors that are becoming more and more popular now online. They even charge, and a lot of people pay to have a virtual tutor replacing a live tutor. It would be very interesting to see what the effects is for adult learners returning back to study math. And this concludes basically my presentation. Thank you very much. I hope I stuck to the time frame allowed, and I'll be happy to answer any questions or comments you may have.